Today we will be discussing and ranking every action RPG I own and have played on the Nintendo Switch. Starting off strong with Crystar. This one is great if you enjoy extremely long, bland, boring dungeons that just drag on and on and on. All of the enemies and dungeons lack variety and originality. The dungeons are basically just a bunch of hallways and little rooms for fighting enemies. There are only a handful of different monster designs just reskinned with different colors in the different dungeons. The gameplay is extremely basic, which usually isn't a problem to me, but it sure was in this game. I normally don't mind super basic action RPGs as long as it has a decent story, which this one does. And as long as there aren't too many difficulty spikes, I also don't like there to be a lot of grinding if the combat is as boring as this one. I played this one up until the final boss just because I wanted to know the rest of the story. However, once I got to the boss, I realized I would need to grind a lot if I wanted a decent chance, so I just gave up. Life is too short to suffer that much more. I would have preferred this one as a visual novel since the story really is pretty decent, the voice acting was okay. I promise I do like most of the games in this video, just not this one. To immediately contradict myself, let's go ahead and start with another one that has failed to catch my attention so far. Is it wrong to pick up girls in a dungeon infinite combat? I picked this one up because I do enjoy the anime, and I really enjoy most top-down action dungeon crawler RPGs. This one, however, seems to be as basic as they get. The combat and dodging all just feels very clunky and unfinished. I've only put in a couple hours so far since I only got this one recently, but I do intend on playing it all the way through as long as it doesn't give me too many issues. Half of the game is practically a visual novel, which I think would make this game at least worth playing through if you like the anime or want to get into it. Snack World. Here's the top-down dungeon RPG I actually enjoyed a decent amount. Snack World: The Dungeon Crawl Gold. This one has fun combat and dungeon exploration with tons of treasure to find along the way. It has randomly generated dungeons, there are tons of side quests and just tons of content to keep you busy for a while. I definitely recommend this one if you like games of this style. Dragon Quest Treasures. I actually do not hate this one like everyone else does. I thought Dragon Quest Treasures was a fun, mindless action RPG. The story definitely wasn't anything crazy, but I enjoyed the gameplay loop. It's basically Fetch Quest the video game. If you are looking for a light-hearted, mindless game to play, then this one is perfect. You get to play as Eric from Dragon Quest XI if you are a fan of him or just a fan of Dragon Quest in general. This one has similarities to the Dragon Warrior Monsters games, like having monster companions that help you on your treasure hunting journey. The monsters can help you do so many things like jumping high, gliding, and so much more. I'm not surprised since it was initially inspired by those games, but shifting during development to focus on treasure hunting. Dragon Quest Builders 2 is so much better than Minecraft could ever hope to be. I just never clicked with Minecraft, but this game pulled me in immediately. There's so much to do, the story is decent, you have an entire island you can build on for hours on end if you really enjoy the building aspect of Minecraft. You could basically do that to any parts of the game, which is massive if you want to. It also has a ton to enjoy if you aren't crazy about building. It has a straightforward main story with really fun exploration and action combat. You can use a glider to help you get places and find all kinds of things. The story is much better than I expected. It features the final boss from Dragon Warrior 2, but this time, he is a humanoid with amnesia. I highly recommend this game. Harvestella is a highly underrated game and was unfortunately marketed terribly. They made it seem like it really focused on farming while it really is more of an action RPG with a very fascinating story. You could focus on farming more if you want, but it really isn't forced on you much at all. The combat is a little clunky and basic, but it didn't bother me at all and I had trouble putting this game down once I started it. It has a very pretty art style and great music as well. Couldn't recommend it enough since it really flew under the radar. More people need to play it. Rune Factory 3 is a fantastic top-down action RPG with fun exploration, and you can also spend as much time as you want farming or leveling up tons of other skills. Any of the monsters and raise, ride, and use them as slaves all you want in all of the games. It is very difficult to get bored in any of these games. This one is the most unique in my opinion. You get to change between human and woolly anytime you want as long as no one can see you. You can also date many of the different characters as well. Rune Factory 4 is more of the same except it has a lot more content story-wise. You could play this game for so many hours without being bored. I really like the art style of the top-down Rune Factory game. Rune Factory 5 is the worst of the three, but is definitely not a bad game at all. It just has some performance issues on Switch like so many other games. It also isn't top-down. This time it's more of a third-person game. The characters and writing are a bit more bland compared to the others. It was still a ton of fun and has more than enough to keep you busy for a while. Tales of Vesperia is a highly praised Tales of game that I thought was good, but not great. I probably let myself get overhyped since it was praised by so many people. I may have just been burned out from the Tales games since I've played 8 of them in the last few years. Either way, this one was still fun and has all the fun action combat that they all have. It is also a very good traditional JRPG with multiple towns to visit and an overworld to explore, along with many dungeons as well. I definitely recommend this one to any Tales fan. Star Ocean 2 is a flawless, beautiful remake of an already fantastic game. The story is decent, especially if you played the first game, which is also on Switch. It just isn't a full remake like this one. It is also a very traditional JRPG with an amazing world to explore and tons of items and equipment to find. There are multiple characters you can recruit throughout the game, some of which you can miss completely, and as far as I know you can't get all of them in a single playthrough. The combat is practically perfect, and at a certain point in the game you can basically break it and just demolish enemies without fighting them while still getting experience. It was probably the most fun I had grinding in a game in a while. Just a warning though. If you start this game, your console may become glued to your hands until you beat it. I couldn't praise this game enough. Collection of Mana is a fantastic collection of 3 awesome retro games, one of which never had been released in English before, starting with Final Fantasy Adventure, which is actually a Mana game and has nothing to do with Final Fantasy at all. They just wanted their game to sell, so they basically stole the Final Fantasy name for it. I still need to beat this one, but it seems fun from what I've played so far. I've beaten Secret of Mana and enjoyed most of it. The combat isn't exactly my favorite since I'm more of a button masher and it wants you to be patient so that your weapons will do more damage. The art style is great and the characters are a ton of fun. I've also played the remake on PS4 and it is a bit broken at times, but it's still playable. The NPCs are extremely dumb in this one and sometimes just run in circles for no reason or run into walls. It can be very entertaining to watch. Trials of Mana is the one we never got in English before. Now we have gotten it twice, with this collection and an actual remake as well, which is incredible and so much better than the Secret of Mana remake. Trials of Mana is basically a better, more refined Secret of Mana. I'm so glad it finally got the treatment and recognition it deserves. Made in Abyss Binary Star Falling into Darkness is a game based on the anime of the same name. This game has one major similarity with the anime, and that it is extremely dangerous and practically a horror game. This game consists of 2 parts. First is the story part, which basically is just the same premise of the anime, and it serves as a good way to introduce the characters and the basics of the story. This only takes a few hours to get through, and then the second part opens up, which is the main part of the game. It allows you to explore the entire depths of the abyss at your leisure. You will die so many times and you will feel terrified at times, and you will constantly be on your toes trying to watch out for monsters, traps, and anything that can hurt you. This is great, more unique action RPG that I plan to put many more hours into whenever I'm in the mood for a good punishment. Don't let the adorable art style trick you. It's not as cute and safe as it looks. Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Rescue Team DX is a remake of both the original Mystery Dungeon games on GBA and DS. This one is not exactly an action RPG, but this is my list, and I didn't feel like putting it in with the actual turn-based games. This is a top-down mystery dungeon game where you play as a Pokemon who wakes up with amnesia, so you decide to join a rescue team and do random fetch quests until you find out the truth of who you are. I remember loving the original as a kid, and this one brings back those great memories any time I play it. Mega Man Battle Network Collection is another nostalgic trip for me. I played almost all of them as a kid and put countless hours into them, even though I don't think I beat a single one of them back then. I was just terrible at games and still am, and barely finished anything aside from Pokemon games back in the day. These games have a similarity to the Pokemon games mainly because numbers 3 through 6 also have dual releases where they would release 2 versions of the same game just like Pokemon did. This brings the collection from 6 different games to 10 total games since all versions are included here. This also doesn't technically count as an action RPG, but it will be here anyway because it doesn't really count as a traditional turn-based either. The battles are played on a 3x3 grid where you try to avoid and attack the enemy at the same time. This collection does have some quality of life features, one of which lets you do an incredible amount of damage with a single buster shot. Usually you would have to use battle chips as weapons and healing items to beat the enemy. I appreciate this feature since I'm still not great at games and I would like to play through some of them with as little death and stress as possible. Combat Jrpg is a double pack of games from a company called B-Side Games. They unfortunately went out of business basically before they even got started. They only released 6 games, which is very unfortunate since they had decent releases and amazing packaging. These games will be the last ones that aren't action-based. They mainly ended up here because it's been a while and I completely forgot the battles were turn-based. Jrpg is a very fun short top-down dungeon crawler game with turn-based battles. The combat game is a weird little card battling game that I need to put more time into to fully understand it. Alright, we're on the final stretch, which is going to end with some massive bangers. Starting with Ys Origin. The Ys games are some of the best action RPGs I've ever played. Ys Origin has the older Ys gameplay, which is just really fun top-down action. The only negative I can think of is that the scenery and exploration lacks variety, but not because it's a bad game. You just spend the whole game climbing up and fighting through one massive tower. You can play as 2 different characters, male and female. Both have completely different playstyles. Usually I would go in numerical order, but this time I would rather save best for last. So we're going to go with Ys 9 next. Ys 9 is a bit of a letdown since it came out after the best in the series. The story is still very intriguing and focuses on a very mysterious town, and Adol has to break out of prison. Gameplay is perfect as always. I always enjoy a good mystery as well. Ys 8, Lacrimosa of Donna, is in my top 3 games of all time. I love everything about this game. The story immediately pulls you in with a mysterious shipwreck on a very mysterious island, with monsters called primordials, which are basically dinosaurs. The scenery and exploration this game has was perfect, and the story just gets better and better until the end. This game would not let me put it down at all. I just had to know what happens next constantly. Do yourself a favor and play this game ASAP. There is even a novel that follows the exact same story with added character development, and Adol actually speaks as often as a normal person. I definitely recommend the book even if you don't like the game or don't want to try it. The story is worth it. Alright, Xenoblade Chronicles series is up next. It's another one of my favorites of all time. The first one has a good story with tons of side quests and exploration. The art and music in this game is fantastic. It is definitely not a normal action RPG, and the combat will not click with a lot of people, but if you can get past that, these are some of the best JRPGs ever made. The story is great as well. The second game is the most controversial. It is not a bad game at all. It just had some things people like to complain about, like the fan service, and people also don't like the main character or his voice. I thoroughly enjoyed it and struggled to put it down. The exploration is some of the best. You get to explore these massive titans that basically have an entire world on their back. The combat is still a bit difficult to get used to for some people. Torna, the Golden Country, is a prequel DLC to the second game. It is basically a full game and takes about 30 hours to beat. They introduce some great new characters and some that you have met in previous games, which help flesh out their stories better. The combat also is a bit easier and more refined in my opinion. Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is by far the best in the series in every way. The story was very dark and sad, just how I like my stories. The combat got even better and the exploration is as good as ever. The music is as beautiful as all of them. The characters were fantastic, and this one had the most main characters, which usually isn't done this well. I still think about the characters and the ending more frequently than I should. It really leaves an impact on you. And with that, we've finished discussing mostly all my action RPGs and a couple that don't belong here. I plan on going through my entire Nintendo Switch collection by genre, which is over 250 games currently. There will be many more parts of the series until I go through all of them. Hope you all have a great rest of your day. See you all next time.